And a new report finds the states of New York and New Jersey have lost billions of dollars in potential revenue because of residents moving to lower tax states, such as Florida and Texas. The report by Unleash Prosperity found New York's losses were the largest. Joining us now to discuss this 10-year trend is Unleash Prosperity's executive director, Tim Doescher. Tim, thanks for joining us this morning. The data in your report shows a 10-year trend. What's behind the numbers of the tax revenue flight?
Well, look, that is an incredible introduction there, because if you think about it, this is one of the biggest stories domestically in America that hardly anybody is talking about. You talk about this redrawing of congressional districts in the last segment. Well, a lot of that's happening because we are seeing that people are fleeing one area and going to another. And then you have states like California who have lost 1.6 million people over the last 10 years. And that's a little bit lag data. So that number is actually higher in today's standards. And they're trying to make up for it. They're trying to restructure, rejigger to keep their power. This is a huge deal because not only are people leaving, but like you said, the money is leaving for these blue states, New York, California, Connecticut, New Jersey, Illinois, all these blue states. They have such expensive governments that cost money to run, and they're losing that tax base because they jack those tax rates up so high. People say, you know what, I've had enough. I'm going to take me, my family, and my business with me.
It's an interesting point, especially Trump calling for an expedited census because of the point that you're making, saying that, the maps don't really reflect the populations because of such a dramatic shift in populations. But isn't the conventional thinking that more people will always arrive, at least to the New York City area, the LA area, to compensate for those leaving?
Well, remember, this is a net number. So people are always, of course, they're moving in. Of course, people are going to move into New Jersey, New York, for sure. It's the Big Apple. There's always going to be a need and a desire to do that. But this on net, meaning that even in spite of people moving in, you have all the more people moving out. And that is a direct response. And by the way, it's not just people. It's their businesses. Like you see that number, as we say, 2/3 of $1 trillion between New York and New Jersey combined. Look, that's because people are taking not just their incomes, but they're taking their business with them to states like Florida, South Carolina, Texas, all the places in the South where they're not going to be taxed so high. So, while it is true that people are moving in, who's moving in? Are they business owners? Are they people that are going to take the city forward and continue to be the innovative cultural hub of the entire world? Or is that going to relocate into the South in a Texas or in a Florida? I think it's going to be the latter, not the former.
Very interesting. And then to stay with that point and stay right here in the Big Apple and New Jersey in the metro area, what does the election of Mamdani and Mikey Sherrill mean for the future of this trend and this particular geo?
Well, how do you get Mamdani? I think you get Mamdani because you've driven out all of the people that would have potentially put another candidate over the finish line. When you have socialism, you attract socialists. I was just in Finland 2 weeks ago, and we were sitting down at a restaurant, and the server comes up to our table and says, "Wow, you're from America, the New York election. This is incredible." I go, "What do you care about a mayoral election?" And he said something very important. He said, "Well, he's a socialist. I'm a socialist. We have to unite because what happens in New York is going to happen around the world." This is an extremely telling sign that not just Democrats, blue dog Democrats, traditional Democrats are populating the city anymore, but it's far leftists that are moving in, driving out all the other voters. And so I do think the election of Mamdani is very, very signifying of where things are standing politically in New York, and it's not good.
So your 10-year trend shows one aspect of this, that people are relocating, and it takes a lot of effort, right, to pick up and move. If you think about Giuliani, Chris Christie, even Vermont had elected a Republican governor. So the question to you is, do you expect this trend of blue state population flight to continue, or does it eventually hit like a rock bottom and then come the other way, as we've seen in the past?
Well, it just depends on who the earners are. It depends on who the people and the families who get tired of. Let's think about critical race theory in school. Let's think about DEI programs. Let's think about all the economic factors that cause people to say, look, I've had enough. Because a lot of these states, they continue to go full bore down the left's pathway to devastation, not to prosperity. So look, of course things can be turned around. A little goes a long way. Again, like we said, New York is the hub of the entire world. New Jersey is in that same hub. The Northeast was once a huge manufacturing, great stronghold, but when you keep putting not just high taxes and high regulations, but anti-energy provisions that cause you to pay 2-3 times more than you're paying in the South, or when you put on these DEI and critical race theory programs in school, look, this is people have had enough, and so they finally say, "I'm going where the grass is greener," and actually, it actually is warmer in the winter.
You bring up a really interesting point, and as we finish up, just real quick, 30 seconds. How does you mentioned energy? How does that one issue factor into this trend?
Well, look, there's this program, and we need more than 30 seconds. It's called the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, RGGI. And a lot of the states in the Northeast are a part of this. And it says we're going to reach a net of a certain amount of emissions of carbon emissions. And that really holds stuff because that limits coal, that limits nuclear, that limits all the different things and forces them to do very expensive energy like nuclear, like wind and solar. When, again, you could be in a state next door who isn't a part of RGGI, and they are producing coal and using that stuff. It's completely senseless, but what it does do is it makes things 2 to 3 times more expensive for businesses and for families to heat their house.
Well, you bring up an alarming trend. We'll be keeping a close eye on it, of course, and we appreciate you joining us this morning. Tim Doescher, good to see you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you for covering this. It's an important story.